Hi, fellas.
Hi, how are
Hey,
you?
how's it going?
Good.
Um,
You want a quick takeaway from
yeah,
a day
that's
in Texas?
yeah. If you don't mind, I mean, you were there to see it with your own eyes. We've heard a lot of differing reports from people who have gone to these detention facilities. What do you think of the conditions and how the people are living and being treated?
Well, the conditions are far from ideal. That's for sure. But I think there's been significant improvement just in the last month, in part because of the new funding that Congress provided on a bipartisan basis. About a month ago, we saw some results of that, of new facilities being built, showers being installed, more clothing, more medical attention. So I think there's some improvement. It's still, there are places, parts of the system that are too crowded, um, and it's still not, like I say, it's not what it should be. But I think the people on the ground are trying to do the best that they can. The part that was disappointing is that the administration is inaugurating a new policy of basically forcing people that are seeking asylum to wait in Mexico, and that's not working. It's dangerous. People are subject to gangs and traffickers. They get desperate. They try to swim the river, and that is to me, a thinly disguised attempt to bypass our asylum laws. Uh, I guess I'd say there's some good news and some bad news. But I think because of the public attention and because of the additional funding, the conditions at these detention centers have improved. I think just in the very recent past.
So, what do you think could be improved on actually what you just mentioned there about having people who are seeking asylum having to wait in Mexico? I mean, is there an improvement or a quick change that you see that could be made immediately to help that?
Well, if they have an asylum claim, they should be allowed to make that claim and serve and be detained on American soil, which is their right under the asylum law. And then one of the things is everybody says, well, they won't show up for their court hearing, and it turns out that if there's a program called case managers where people are assigned to look after these folks wherever they go, and they have a over 90% attendance rate at the court hearing. So that kind of program, I think, could make a real improvement. I think there needs to be more visibility and accountability, although I have to say, I think the visibility of the past 6 months or so has really led to some improvements. I think, we've got to get to the point where cruelty is not viewed as a public policy in order to deter people from coming here. It obviously isn't working. And the final thing I would say is we need to do something to try to support these three countries, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, where the bulk of these people are coming from, to stabilize those countries so people don't have to come here in the first place and run for their lives.
Okay. Did you get a chance to speak with facility staff there today?
I did. I talked to staff. I talked to nonprofit people. Spent some time with people all up and down the line of Customs and Border Patrol, and I have to say, the people on the ground are really, I think, doing their best. I mean, obviously, in any large group of people, there are people that aren't so great, but these are serious people. And they have improved the situation. For a while, it was well over 1,000 people a day, and that's a lot of people to absorb and take care of. They've cut the wait times, which is something that could be improved even further. But the last facility we were in, the average wait time before they went on to be out with a family or a relative somewhere in the country was 41 hours. So that's an improvement. I think we should get it down even further, but that's not even 2 days. So I see some improvement. Not enough. There's still work to do, but and we still have to deal with a larger issue. And I think that comes back to trying to provide some help to these countries so that people aren't running for their lives and putting up with the grave dangers of getting to our border.
Mm-hmm. And Senator, I know that some of the staff down there had said in previous days that they were overwhelmed, and you had mentioned the thousands that were coming in. Are you, after speaking with them today, would you still characterize them as feeling overwhelmed?
I think they feel that they have it more under control, but I fear that the reason is that it's this new policy of essentially stopping people at the bridge and making them go back into Mexico, which is alleviating our problem, but it's creating problems on the other side. And from what I understand from the people on the ground that work both sides of the border, that it's very dangerous, and it's not commensurate with our legal responsibility under the asylum laws. I believe it's a de facto repeal of the asylum laws without going to Congress or changing the policy. So, like I say, it's sort of good news, bad news. I think the numbers are down. For example, they were talking about a week or so ago, they had 2,700 children. Today, they had about 350. So that's certainly a significant improvement in terms of overcrowding and resources. But if that's being achieved at the price of making people wait in a very dangerous situation right across the border, I'm not sure that's legitimate progress.
Okay, Senator, just as well as anybody that Maine has kind of become a sanctuary for a lot of these asylum seekers, and we just adopted rules the other day to allow them to receive general assistance, which was applauded on many levels. At the same time, Border Patrol, just this month has caught multiple people in Maine. They've gotten into the country illegally and then stayed in Maine. I don't know if if there's a balance there between allowing people to come to Maine to get the asylum or seek the asylum that they need, versus, preventing people who are trying to get here illegally from getting in there. Is there a balance that can be struck, and how could that happen? I know that's a big question.
Well, asylum seekers, I think it's important to realize that asylum seekers and refugees and illegal border crossers are three different categories under different laws with different standards and rules. Somebody who crosses the border, just plain crosses the border illegally, is a lawbreaker, and we need to enforce the law. On the other hand, it does make sense to start with criminals, the most dangerous people. If you've got limited resources for enforcement, just like if you're a police department or any other law enforcement, you should focus on the most serious problems. And that's where I think the administration should put its assets rather than going after families first. I think the criminals should be the first target. The asylum seekers are a whole different category, and we've had them in Portland for some time, and many of them are now fully integrated into the community. Many of them have become citizens. They're paying taxes. They're contributing. We need workers, of course, everywhere in Maine, and these are people that are anxious to work. And the reports I get from Maine employers is they're great employees. So it's a very complex problem. There's nothing easy about it, but I think it's important that we realize that there's a difference between somebody who's coming here and running, literally fearing for their life, and somebody who's just decided to try to cross the border illegally, and they should be treated differently.
Senator, we appreciate your time. Is there something we've left out that you want to make sure we add?
Well, I think somebody asked me the other day, why are you going? And I said, a very wise old man once told me that one day of seeing is better than 30 days of reading. That's why I went.